What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, bringing you episode, I think we're on 18 of the Eagles' 5th down, and we're going to be looking at my big board and what I think the Eagles' big board will be at the cornerback spot. We'll be doing another episode where we look at the wide receivers, corner and wide receiver. Even with, the big free agency signings, we still have pretty much all of our wide receiver room is on a one-year deal. So I think corner and wide receiver are the two biggest positions of need, assuming that, me, in my personal opinion, we have Joe Mixon as the top running back, and that's well out there. Corner and wide receiver, we're kind of all over the place. So today, we're starting with corner, which I think is the biggest need for the Philadelphia Eagles to address this year. We have 24 corners ranked. We're not going to go super in-depth with all these guys because, we've seen all the mock drafts and all that stuff beaten to death. You kind of know what we feel. But I kind of put little notes next to them about how they fit into a Jim Schwartz scheme. But first, let's look at what we have in the front office. So now you have to assume we'll take Howie out of this because we know Howie is absolutely trash at drafting cornerbacks. Let's look at the two men that should have influence on our secondary. We have Joe Douglas and we have Jim Schwartz. You have to assume that Jim Schwartz, since he's been in the league and really helping and assisting as a DC back in year 2000, I've gone back and looked at all the corners drafted while Jim Schwartz was a DC somewhere or the head coach of the Detroit Lions. And I looked at the corners that have been drafted under the Joe Douglas era. And we'll start with Joe Douglas because supposedly he is heading up our draft board. Hasn't drafted a lot of corners. He's drafted 3 of note. And realistically, only one of them is kind of caught on. Biggest corner for him was Jimmy Smith, selecting Jimmy Smith out of Colorado. Like that tie to Colorado because there's a couple corners from the University of Colorado that both would be big-time fits on this team. And Jimmy Smith, very good, probably the best corner right now on the Baltimore Ravens, and they were one of the top defenses last year. And there's other 2 corners. He had Asa Jackson, who he selected in the 5th round. Again, you can't put too much weight in a 5th round starter, but again, I think the size is a key here because there's a common theme among the height, weight, speed of corners that Jim Schwartz has drafted, or at least have been drafted while Jim Schwartz is under there. And Asa Jackson kind of fits that mold, 5'10", 185 pounds. And then with the Bears, you got DeAndre Houston Carson, who was more of a special teamer last year at 6'1", 200 pounds. So there's not a whole lot of patterns to analyze with Joe Douglas, as he had a beneficial that he had most of his career with the Baltimore Ravens, and they're pretty much set on the defensive side of the ball. But, would say he's 1 for 2. Jimmy Smith, too early to maybe call and give a verdict on Houston Carson. But, like I said, the 5th and a 6th round pick, it's tough to really use that as a prime example of who he has drafted. But Jimmy Smith, that's showing that in the 1 first-round corner he has drafted, he has got a very good corner in Jimmy Smith. So now, looking at the corners that have been on Jim Schwartz's team since he's been involved, starting from the very beginning. In 2001, the 2nd round, winnings with the Tennessee Titans, they get Andre Dyson, who has career 22 picks, 317 tackles, has been a very solid corner in the NFL during his tenure there. I had to say that you have to assume that he's a solid corner. You give that a check mark, but the size is something. He's 5'10", 185 pounds. And then they got in 2002, they got this guy Mike Eccles in the 4th round, 5'10". Nothing notable. Again, 4th round pick. Really, anything that's out of the first 3 rounds, I'm kind of lenient as if they have emerged as something great in their career. I'm more so using it as for what height, weight, speed, what kind of similarities do we find, and this is what we're using here in the 4th round pick. Mike Eccles, 5'10", 185 pounds. 2002, in the 4th round, they got Tony Beckham, a corner from the University of Wisconsin Stout, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, kind of a hybrid safety type player. Not a whole lot there. Then in 2004, in the 3rd round, they got this guy Rich Gardner from the University of Penn State, 5'10", 190 pounds. Then in 2005, in the 1st round, for Tennessee Titans out of West Virginia, Pac-Man Jones, 5'10", 180 pounds. Are you guys noticing this pattern here? And then we have Cortland Finnegan with the Titans, round 7 out of Sanford. Still, no one really thought he was going to emerge anything and managed to be one of the biggest shit disturbers. Still incredibly productive. Had 18 picks, bunch of forced fumbles, 4 defensive touchdowns. You have to say, all in all, Finnegan, great pick, 5'10", 190 pounds. And then when he moved on with the Detroit Lions, in the 3rd round, he got this guy, Amari Spivey, 5'11", 190 pounds. We also have, with the Detroit Lions, in the 2012 draft, 3rd round, Bill Bentley from Louisiana Lafayette, 5'10", 185 pounds. Then we got in the 2nd round in 2013 with the Lions, really, really good pick, Darius Slay. So it looks like both these guys have drafted well high up. high up, not a lot of misses that I'm seeing. So I guess, the reluctancy of drafting a corner in the first round, it's certainly there. But with Jim Schwartz and Joe Douglas at the helm, they've had a great record. We got Jimmy Smith, Andre Dyson, Pac-Man Jones, Darius Slay, all these guys, great talent evaluators in the early round investments. But Darius Slay, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, one of the best corners in the NFL today. Finishing up with the Buffalo Bills. Well, he stopped there in Buffalo. They only got one corner. They got Ross Cockrell out of Duke in the 4th round, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. He's been serviceable. And then with the Eagles last year, we got Blake Countess, which was a bad pick. I'll throw it out there. But he was a six rounder. But again, look at the relation. 5'10", 185 pounds. And then we got Jalen Mills, which was a great pick for what he was. 7th rounder, able to contribute as a starter. But the things that we've learned, the reason why we talked about this for 5 minutes, not only giving you guys, because I'm doing some digging, some research here, is that 2 things that we like. First round picks for Joe Douglas and Jim Schwartz in the 1st, 2nd, maybe 3rd round, they've all been hits. They haven't had one bust corner yet. Second thing is looking at Jim Schwartz, he's not afraid to get the guys that are 5'10", 5'11", sub 6 feet tall, which seems like the league wants to get away from that. This league is still stuck in the mold. We need the big, long, lengthy Richard Sherman types, and that's not always the case. So let's go in right now to my big board at the cornerback spot. I have these graded out, 24 of them, and I also have what round I think they will, and we'll go from the bottom and work our way up. So currently, corners that I have invested as a 5th round pick. At number 24, I have Marquez White from Florida State. I think he would fit this team. He has instincts that Jim Schwartz likes. He's physical at the line of scrimmage and would fit into the scheme, but only as a 5th round pick. 23, I have Channing Stribling from Michigan. He's a press man corner. He's lengthy, and he's a willing tackler. Those are pretty much the traits that Jim Schwartz wants. That for more often than not, they want a guy that's a physical, willing tackler, more of a man coverage. But again, it's really tough to classify a Jim Schwartz defense because they run a lot of various schemes, but more so a man corner. A press man corner is a better fit than a traditional zone corner, which was it kind of influenced my rankings here. But Stribling at number 23. At number 22, I have Brandon Langley from Lamar. Press man corner, height, weight, speed type of player. And then finally in the 5th round, I have Jalen Myrick from Minnesota. Press corner, can work in the slot. He's a willing tackler and had an excellent 40-yard dash time. And I really think maybe this is more my bias than how I think the board should go, but I really want some speed in that secondary, and you're going to get that in Jalen Myrick. So those are the corners I have as 5th round corners, and that's the grade that I'd have for them. As we're shortening the list, like I said, there's probably 30 corners, 35, probably, maybe it's 40 goddamn corners that could potentially get drafted here. So like I said, a lot of these guys that if they aren't scheme fits, I'm trying my best to analyze if they would even be on the Eagles draft board. So those are the first 4. Now we're jumping into the 4th round. We have another 4 corners. At number 20, I have Howard Wilson from the University of Houston. He has excellent ball skills, willing tackler, but kind of a project player. Don't think he's a finished product right now. And again, in the 4th round, I guess for Philly, you maybe could take a gamble on a project-type player, even though I do believe any corner they select in this year's draft class, they're going to want to come in and compete right away, and you might not get that with Howard Wilson right away. Number 19, I have Shaquille Griffin from UCF. He's aggressive in coverage and run support, ran a 4.38 speed, certainly helped himself at the combine. Great high character guy, which is always the kind of things we look for in Philadelphia. So, yep, another guy there. 18, Corn Elder from the University of Miami. He's a slot corner, relentless, very good scheme fit for Jim Schwartz in the mentality aspect as well as the playmaking ability. And I still don't think Jim Schwartz is content with Ron Brooks as our starting slot corner. So we could look at adding competition there in Corn Elder. And then at number 17, we have DeMonte Kazee from San Diego State. Already had a pre-draft visit with the Philadelphia Eagles. Excellent ball skills. The only thing is that he's more of a zone than a man cover corner. But like again, we're not one of those, like a Seattle defense or like a Patriot defense that really has one style of play. Jim Schwartz is fairly versatile. We have to wait and see what our linebackers look like, if he's going to primarily run out of the nickel or if we're going to have more 4-3 base. Depends what we're going to do, but more often than not, press man will get an advantage over a zone, but it's not a death sentence if you're not, not a primary man cover corner. So those are our 4th round picks. Moving to the 3rd round, we have a couple players at the top end that are classified as 2nd, 3rd round picks, but more so, we have some 3rd rounders. So at number 16, I have Cordrea Tankersley from Clemson. He ran well. He's a lengthy cover 2 corner, but he's just not really an ideal scheme fit, and he's overly aggressive. You just see a lot of inconsistent tape, and I think we would shy away from guys that are more consistent. We need more finished products, guys that can come in and compete right away. Tankersley wouldn't be a be-all, end-all, oh my god, terrible pick, but he certainly is at the bottom of that third round. Still talented, still some upside, but I don't really see him fitting well here in Philadelphia. Number 15, as much as it pains me to say, Tease Tabor from Florida. Already had a pre-draft visit, but he had a poor combine. He's more of a zone than a man cover corner, but he has, in my opinion, the best tape out of any corner last year in the draft. His body work in college stacks up against anyone that's 15 spots higher than on my rankings. But there are some off the field things. But mentality-wise, certainly fits a Jim Schwartz defense. I'm just not so sure that his speed and ability will fit well for the man cover system. But again, if he's in the third round, still would present tremendous value. And really, any of these guys in the third round, I'd be all right with. Jumping to number 14, I have Rasul Douglas from West Virginia. He's more of a zone cover corner, but definitely has the ability to play press man. Really lengthy, excellent ball skills, maybe the best ball skills in this year's draft class. Uber productive at West Virginia. Only thing that kind of hurt him was a very poor 40-yard dash time. Pretty much, I think it was a 4.59, which is not helping him out very much, but not bad. Number 13, we have Cameron Sutton from Tennessee. He's a man cover corner. He is a great scheme and mentality fit. He's a leader with good ball skills. He is a guy I would certainly watch on in the third round for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he'd be a perfect fit for us. Durability concerns, sure, but he's not bad. 12, I have Quincy Wilson from the University of Florida. I believe he is more of a safety in the NFL, but if he's considered a corner, he's big and physical at the line of scrimmage, great corner and run support. Things that, really tick off a lot of boxes for Jim Schwartz. He likes his defense to be as physical as possible, but I just certainly could see Jim Schwartz viewing at Quincy Wilson more as a safety, kind of following the mold where Eric Reed kind of fell into, or not Eric Reed, Eric Rowe fell into, where he just not exactly the scheme fit. Because that's what makes me, when I keep bringing up the scheme fit, I mean, Eric Rowe has the talent, but because he wasn't a scheme fit, they shipped him out of town. So clearly, they are putting importance on guys that fit what Jim Schwartz wants to run, more so than just the best available type player. Which kind of can help you, because that means you can get late round steals. Number 11, though, we have Fabian Moreau from UCLA. Already had a pre-draft visit. He had his injury, which sucks, but he's a press man corner. He's an excellent athlete and a willing tackler, and will be a good fit for our scheme. And he is in now, and we're from Fabian Moreau up. We are now into guys that would be second round. I'd be more comfortable in the third round, but wouldn't be upset if we took him in the second, and that starts with Moreau. Number 10, we have Kevin King from the University of Washington. Had a pre-draft visit. He's a long press corner with a great 40 and versatile. Can play inside, can play outside, can probably switch that safety when he slows down near the end of his career. So because of that versatility, he'd be a nice fit. Don't necessarily think he's going to be going in the third round, but he could be, and like I said, wouldn't be bad of a reach getting him in the second round. Number 9, I have Sidney Jones from Washington. He had a pre-draft visit with the Eagles. Obviously, his injury sucks. He was my top corner, personally, if he didn't have that injury. He's a shutdown corner, but I'm only really worried that he won't be the same type of player after an ACL, not ACL, come on, C4. He's an Achilles injury. I had the same kind of injury when I was in high school, and man, it sucked. You could tell, like, the lack of explosiveness. You could really feel it right away. And I personally don't believe, I've said it in the stream countless times, that he will be back before week 8. That's like the cutoff. I think anything before week 8, he's not coming back at 100%. But still, second, third round grade for him, as he is the last one. Now we're jumping into guys that I would be happy taking in the second round. At number 8, we have Akilo Witherspoon from the University of Colorado. Had a pre-draft visit. He's a height, weight, speed type player. The only thing kind of knock about him is he's not a great tackler, not a willing tackler. It seems like Jim Schwartz wants those physical type players, at least that are willing to get physical, but he has excellent instincts and would certainly be more of a press man cover corner than a zone fit. And he's long, he's lengthy with a lot of upside. Not necessarily ready to classify him as a project type player, but I think because of the height, weight, speed, and his ability to play and start on the outside, I wouldn't be upset taking him in the second round. At number 7, we have Jordan Lewis from the University of Michigan. Off-field issues, which is what's going to make him slide. But I'm going to be completely honest. Out of all the corners in this year's draft class, Jordan Lewis probably fits the Jim Schwartz scheme the best for everything you want for a slot corner. Fits that height, that size that we've seen as a common pattern around corners that were selected by Jim Schwartz. Tested, only the kind of stuff he did test poorly in a combination of the off-the-field issues. Maybe if he's there in the third round, that would be an unbelievable pick. But I mean, knowing if I want Joe Mixon, getting Joe Mixon and Jordan Lewis, maybe that's a little too much bad PR to handle for the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think Jordan Lewis could fit perfectly in the slot for a Jim Schwartz scheme. Number 6, I have Marlon Humphrey from the University of Alabama. He had a pre-draft visit. He's a height, weight, speed type corner. He's more zone than a man, but he rarely has a high ceiling. It's more so you can play zone early on and then develop into a man, where I think if we want to invest a high pick, they better be a scheme fit right away. We might not get that with a Marlon Humphrey. I do see him as a very high risk reward type player, and I would prefer if we didn't get Marlon Humphrey, but really beggars can't be choosers, and we need some corners, and he can develop into a good fit for Jim Schwartz scheme, just won't be that right out the box. Number 5, I have Chidobe Awuzie from the University of Colorado. Had a pre-draft visit. Kind of like Quincy Wilson, I may see him a little bit more as a safety, but he certainly has the ability to be a man-cover corner in the NFL. He had a great combine. He's incredibly versatile, which is a good positive on Jim Schwartz's defense, being able to stay on the field and not have to come out. He wants his front 7, or really his front 4 more than his front 7, to rotate heavily. He doesn't have to worry about the back end. That's why guys like Malcolm Jenkins just live on the field. And that can kind of be the mold of a Chidobe Awuzie. Get him as a corner now, and then maybe when Malcolm Jenkins starts to slow down, you could pair him back there with a Rodney McLeod. Just something to keep an eye on. But he's my number 5. And then my final second-round grade corner at number 4, I have Adoree Jackson from USC. He had a pre-draft visit. Slot corner, fits the mold of a Jim Schwartz cornerback pick, very similar to Jordan Lewis. He's an elite athlete, great in press man, and I kind of have him a little bit higher on my board than if you're going for the popular consensus board because he is a scheme fit. He's one of the few players that kind of get shifted around a little bit because I'm trying to do my best to have these guys ranked as who would make the biggest impact on the Philadelphia Eagles as soon as possible. And I think Adoree Jackson is a guy you got to keep an eye on. Even though I, like you, am very worried about USC corners. Anytime we touch anything from USC, I'd rather not. But at the cornerback spot, again, kind of going in the same mold as a Marlon Humphrey. Beggars can't be choosers. We may have to let the USC hatred by to get a good slot corner. Now I only have 3 corners currently graded as first-round talents for the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 3, I have TRE'DAVIOUS White from LSU. He's a great athletic man-cover corner. Only that sucks that he's an unwilling tackler. He's not really going to give you much in terms of run support, but he is a scheme fit for Jim Schwartz. He'd be able to start on the outside right away in our press man-cover corner, and he probably could add some competition. If we had to go with Trey White, LSU, Jalen Mills, LSU, I think we would be not as bad as we could be if we decided not to get a corner in the first round. So that's why you have him here, but he is my bottom of the barrel in the first round. No slight to him. Number 2 is Garyon Conley from Ohio State. He's a press cover corner, tested well, great instincts, and fits the scheme. I think, like I've said countless times, he had the best on-field drills at the combine, looked very impressive in pretty much everything that I saw him do. Great, tested well, jumped well, ran well, and on the field he stood out more so than any other corner in this year's draft class, and I would be very satisfied getting Garyon Conley at number 14. Even though some people like to consider that a bit of a reach, I don't quite see it. I think he's going to be just fine. And then number 1, clearly, it's going to be Marshawn Lattimore, incredibly versatile. Pretty much the number 1 corner on a lot of people's boards now that Sidney Jones got injured. Had a pre-draft visit with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a top athlete in the class. He's a press corner, solid, willing tackler. And now, like I said, with the Sidney Jones injury, he's the cornerback 1 and would definitely be able to start and be our number 1 corner day 1. Highly unlikely unless we have some sort of crazy trade that we can move up, that he will fall to us. I can't see him if he slips somehow past like Tennessee or Buffalo. He's not going to slip, past, the likes of the Saints or the Cardinals. So I really think it's incredibly unlikely we get Lattimore, but he still is the number 1 corner, and we have to give him depth and props when we can. So there you go, guys. That is my little discussion about who the Philadelphia Eagles should draft, where I'm kind of thinking players should go in terms of where the Eagles should value them. But let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with anything we said here today. Thank you for watching the best Eagles YouTube channel on YouTube. That's what it is. If you're the first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying stay tuned because we'll be doing this all again for wide receivers.